Um, I'm not saying don't filter the water. I'm just saying that if you are dealing with water that requires filtration and you're going to go through the process of filtering it, wouldn't you want to use the best filter you have available to you? Like you wouldn't walk into a sporting goods place and look at the shelf and see, okay, well, this one I'm probably not going to get sick from. This one has a less chance, and this one I'm pretty much not going to get sick from. Well, am I going to roll the dice for $2, or am I going to buy the better filter?
What's the price difference? If it's $2, yeah. But if it's like $20, I mean.
Well, I mean, if you're in a situation where you believe that you need to bring equipment with you for filtering water, does $20 really make a difference?
Well, it depends on like your financial situation. If you can't afford it at all,
then you steal it.
Yeah, then you steal it. You steal it, or you take the sticker off one and put it on the other.
Well, I guess it's dumb because they should have the best filtration possible.
Well, that's it. Like, so why would an individual company have 3 different levels of filtration that you could buy? Like good, better, best. It just seems like that's like an insurance claim waiting to happen. Because on the show, the guy drank toilet water.
Ew, why would you ever do that?
He went through the awesome filter and drank water out of a
I
toilet.
don't care. Why would you drink?
Just to prove it worked.
Like, was it used toilet water or just toilet water?
Oh, was there really that big of a difference?
Yes. Like, what if
I don't know if there necessarily
it's
is.
like a new toilet bowl and it's just water pumped into there. It's just water.
All right. Water with bubbles in it, or bubbleless water out of any toilet.
Any toilet?
Any toilet.
You have to be more specific.
Yeah.
What do you mean?
What if it's
Like,
a clean toilet?
It's in a home.
Well, that's right. Any toilet. You come up with the most, the ideal toilet to drink out of that you possibly can. Would you rather drink out of a toilet, or would you rather drink water with bubbles in it that didn't come out of a toilet?
I think I'd go with the bubbles.
Really? What? Oh, come on. But like a new
Toilet,
toilet,
no.
it's just like
a
a
new
cup.
toilet. Okay,
But it's
if
any
it's a
toilet.
brand new toilet, sure, but if someone's been.
You don't know what happened in the.
What if it was
What if,
just
what
out
if
of
I made the
manufacturing?
toilet and I knew?
Or I made the toilet myself.
You have no idea what their testing process is like. It's like, oh, it just came off the manufacturing line.
What?
For all you know, that thing's been beta tested 5 times.
What if I built
That'd be
my
a pretty
own
awesome
toilet?
job.
Would you drink out of anything that you built?
I'd say that.
All right. So let's get rolling here. Because apparently I have to give an impossible assignment for.
Or you could get an
Make
easy
it on
assignment.
Tuesday, not on Thursday.
Isn't today Tuesday?
Yes.
Yeah.
So apparently I have to give an impossible assignment if you want to have a chance of not having homework over the weekend.
Alright, sounds good.
Oh, yeah. We can do
Yeah.
that.
that
I'm
sounds
not
good.
promising anything. We'll have to see how much cash comes through the door on Thursday.
I'll give you
But-
this highlighter. I'll put it in my email.
But I'm keeping my expectations low, seeing as though we're seemingly pinching pennies between the filtration that gives us dysentery and the good stuff. It's like I'm going to take my chances. What's this?
We'll just get you another vial.
Yeah, seriously. Vial of what?
Tears.
Well, no, I mean I already have tears.
Toilet water.
How do you infuse bubbles? All right, so I think we saw last time we were having an issue with this button click stuff with the fragment, right? So it seemed like we needed to. It seemed like we needed to probably add our own listener to those buttons because we're kind of staging this for our. Let's get to our stack here. This is our fragment. That's our individual disk. Here's our disk fragment, and this is bringing in a fragment to disk, which is just that. Oh, this was our test, just to see if the button worked. So in our fragment disk, did we give this guy a name? We just called him button 2. Let's call him the button for, I'm not sure that's a huge improvement, but we'll just go with that. So now we have access to that. Inside of our fragment, let's go ahead and see if we can give ourselves a button clicked. So I'm going to steal this system.out here just for testing purposes. Because we saw last time, I think, that this button click dealie did not work, right? So historically, we were able to use on click, but it did not work for our fragments. So we'll go ahead and let's give ourselves access to that button. So we'll say private button, the button, import that, and then inside of this guy, so this inflates the layout for this, but can we go ahead and connect our buttons up? Hopefully we can. This dot the button is equal to this dot, these fragments are pretty seemingly useless. So how do we get access to that button? Otherwise we're going to have to go back and just do this in one layout, but that defeats the purpose. Android button clicks fragment. So there's an on create view. Yeah, that's the same guy we're dealing with there. Oh, we have to use, I get it. I get it. So we need to do this. View V is equal to inflator, blah, 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 will ultimately return V. But before that happens, we need to say this dot, the button is equal to V dot find view by ID R dot ID dot the button. And this guy is going to come out as a button. So we're going to inflate that view and then we'll use it. So an activity automatically becomes the listener for everything inside of it, where a fragment is a lighter version of that. So we'll create our view that's the background view for this. Grab our button from it. Then we'll say this dot the button dot what is it? Add item button listener. Oh, set on click listener. Set on click listener. New on click listener. Like that, and then we'll paste our button clicked in there. Alright, so let's make sure that that guy actually handles button stuff now. So closes that. I don't know where this guy was from. Okay, so let's see if we can programmatically do that now. The idea is be able to respond to individual button clicks. How come we get 50% battery life? Just seems unlikely. Okay, so we go to our stack guy. Ah, we have button clicks. Woot. Okay. So what we want to do is we have 3 separate towers, and each of these towers is in its own fragment. And we're ultimately going to have disks that live on these towers. And the way we're going to select a tower, since we're always popping off of a stack and pushing onto another stack, is we'll just use this button to select the individual tower. So we need to be able to set these buttons labels to stuff. Right now, this baseline thing here just says new button, so we might just change it to select for right now, or we might actually maybe we say that'll actually be an interesting way of doing this, I think. There, we'll default them all to, actually let's default them all to pop. So what we're going to do is, after our towers get added, which we're programmatically doing, we're going to set the first tower, well, actually we'll set them all to pop initially, like it will be. But when we click the button on one of them, we need to let the other towers know to set their buttons to push. Because we're messing around with the stack functions, right? So when we pop off one tower, we're going to push onto a different tower. All right, so that's the motion. So rather, I mean, long term, we might look at doing drag around and stuff like that, but right now we just want to have the mechanics of this. So when we say pop on one guy, we need to let the other towers know that we want to push onto those towers. So let's make sure that we can do this. So this is in our stack activity, right? So here are our 3 towers, tower 1, tower 2, tower 3. And then we probably, do we actually get access to those guys? It doesn't. Oh yeah, we do. So here's our 3 fragments. So let's go ahead and, do we have a singleton in here yet? We have our list core. So let's go ahead and let's create a Towers of Hanoi core. TOH core, just to keep our stuff related to that in one place. So we'll do a new Java class TOH core. And inside here, we're going to have our couple of towers. So go back to our stack activity. This guy is a disk fragment. So we'll put those inside of our 3 towers here. Lost. Here we are. So here's our, this will be tower 1, and these are going to be static. And we'll start it off as being null. We'll do tower 2, tower 3. All right, so we're going to store our 3 towers up inside of the singleton that governs our game here. So we'll go to our stack activity, and rather than calling this guy frag1, we're going to go ahead and we're going to say TOH core dot tower 1 is equal to that, and we'll do the same thing for tower 2, tower 3. So we'll create 2 fresh towers, and then we're going to add those towers to this activity using his fragment manager. Now we have program, well, I'll fix the label here in a second. So this is tower 2, this is tower 3. So we have programmatic access to our 3 towers, and then we go ahead and add them to this activity to the fragment manager. And just as a reminder, if we go back to our activity stack, this guy, here are this is our linear layout. We have tower 1, tower 2, tower 3, and where did we link these guys? Oh, that's right. We tell it the inside of our stack activity, we tell it we want to inflate this guy inside of tower 1, tower 2, tower 3. These are those vertical linear layouts that we want to create that tower inside of, that fragment inside of. That make sense? So even though these names have something in common, this is the vertical linear layout. This is our actual fragment instance that we created. All right, so now it's in our scene, and let's make sure we can change the text on those buttons. So let's just try it with this first tower, maybe. So we're going to say that guy dot let's just make it public for a moment, just to prove we have access to the button. The button dot set text to blah. Okay. And then let's run it, and we should see the very first guy should say blah, and the other 2 should say pop. Row. Just make sure he was not specifically upset by that. You can do it. Okay, so didn't like me changing the button directly like this. Let's try something inside of the fragment. Here's the button, the button dot set text to blah. Let's do it inside of our fragments. See what Android will give us access to. Okay, we have access to it there. So then do we make this private and then give ourselves a public set button text to string s, this dot the button dot set text to s. I'll return nothing. And then we'll get rid of it from here. And inside of our stack activity here, we should be able to say toh core dot tower 1 dot set button text to blah. And let's see if that is allowed. My gut feeling is this is going to crash as well, for the reason that these towers haven't been inflated yet. Therefore, that actual button doesn't exist. So it's not that we couldn't do it the other way. So I suspect this is going to fail as well. and that's because we're still in the creation process. So setting the button text is going to happen at a later point in time. But let's see. Yeah. So with that in mind, let's just try something here. So we're going to, these are our disk fragments. We're going to build a function inside of TOH core. So static void toggle tower buttons. And this guy is going to take in a disk fragment. Let's call this guy source tower. And what we're going to do is we're going to set, let's just set source tower's text to something right now rather than toggle the other ones for this exact moment. So we'll say source tower dot set button text to blah. And we're going to call this inside of the on click for our button inside of our fragments. So we go back to disk fragment. Instead of printing out button clicked, we're going to say TOH dot toggle tower buttons, and we need to pass this guy a disk fragment. We're going to pass it ourselves. Ooh, we had this problem before, right? So this right here is an instance of on click listener, so we need to go ahead and give ourselves a variable, private disk fragment myself. And the very first thing we can do in here is we can go ahead and say this dot myself is equal to this. That will give us access to that variable. So we'll say myself here. So when our button is clicked, we're going to call our toggle tower buttons, passing ourself in there, but not this, because this is this instance of on-click listener. Myself is our variable, that's us. All variables resolve to their most local definition. The most local definition of myself is this guy right here. All right, so this should call this function, passing whichever tower we click the button in, and we should set that guy's button to blah. And that button should exist at that point in time, because if it didn't, we wouldn't have been able to click it. All right, so it should very clearly be alive at that point in time. And this should probably all but prove the theory that that button just wasn't available when we were trying to set it before. It was kind of a chicken or the egg problem. The activity that was going to house those fragments hadn't been completely created yet, so how could the buttons within the fragments exist yet? That type of thing. Go back here. Here's our buttons. If I click this, it should say blah. I click this, it should say blah. Okay, so perfect. So now we have all the buttons saying blah when I click them. All right, makes sense kind of what that problem was? It's pretty common in if you've done some iOS programming before. There's actually two issues here. One is I do a lot more iOS programming than Android programming. But when I wrote a lot of Android applications for probably about 2 years, it was like 6 versions of the OS ago and 20 versions of the development tools ago, and it was before Fragments existed. so I guess one benefit we have, and this is something that we've been going through in the 518 class, is in class we're fumbling through some of the stuff, but I'm hopefully showing you how you can apply your current programming knowledge to learn a new technology, because you're kind of seeing me do it, right? And you know, we fumble over stuff and say, okay, well, let's try this, and it's kind of MacGyvering a solution. And then we stumble upon a decent way of doing it. So this is really the approach you might take when you're trying to apply programming as a skill set to a new skill, to a new technology, I guess. So in 5 years, when technology XYZ comes out that you never had a class on or something, you know, I'm telling you, you can apply what you already know to learn that by sitting down and saying, okay, well, how do I do memory? How do I ask questions? How do I do repetition? And then for each each time we need to do something new, you say, okay, well, this is what I want to accomplish. How do I think I can accomplish this? You try that. If it doesn't work, try to decide why didn't it work. Don't just try 30 things because we're trying to understand what's actually happening under the hood. Okay, so what we really want to happen with this toggle tower button thing is whoever said the button was clicked in my tower, we want to set his tower to selected or something like that. And then we want to set the other, maybe we set his tower to source. And then we want to set the other guys to, I guess, push, kind of showing us those stack functions. So what I'm going to do here, this should be allowed. Yeah. So we're going to say static disk fragment array tower collection is equal to tower 1, tower 2, tower 3. We'll just build an array of our 3 towers there so we have access to it. And we'll set the text for whatever tower was. Do we want to say selected or source? Let's just say source. I don't think it really matters. Now we're going to go through all of our other towers. So for tower in, different language, disk fragment tower, and then it's that. Actually, hold on. Is it disk fragment? It is. Tower collection. And we've seen for each loops before. So this says for every tower in our tower collection, do something. So we're going to say if the current tower we're looking at is not equal to our source tower, that is, it's not equal to the dude who called this function, then we're going to say tower.set button text to push. And let's keep everything capitalized. Source. So when we toggle tower buttons, this guy will get set as source. We'll go through all of our other towers and we'll set the button to push, letting us know those are kind of destination things. We should also, I would expect, be able to do this. Let's see. Can I disable? Well, we'll leave it alone for right now. I was thinking what we would probably want to do is have that source button not be clickable for the time being. Kind of we've locked it in. That, you know, that can't be your destination. Although if we do click it and it says source, do we want to kind of undo our choice? Like, wait a minute, I didn't mean to do this. Probably the way it needs to work. But let's just see if our mechanics are working here. So every single time we call toggle toggle tower button, we'll pass in the guy whose button was clicked, and we'll go through and make sure we update the buttons and the other guys to the right thing. Okay, so all of these currently say pop. If I click this guy, row, let's see, so that is set button text. Are those guys not real? Think. Building our, since these are null, Those guys don't have real pointers associated with them, so we can create our tower stack that way inside of this, since we know they all exist, because these guys started off as null, and that was an array of pointers, and those pointers all said null, and they never actually got updated. This should work. Okay. So there's our source, push, push. Okay, so what we want to do now is we need to actually get some, I guess, disks onto our tower. Right now we're treating this button as a disk, right? But we probably want our disks to look like something else, I guess. Okay, so right now we call this a fragment disk. And this is a disk fragment. All right, so this is our entire, let's just leave it for now. I guess we want to call this guy a, well, I'm going to try to fix this. We're going to rename this guy. So we're going to do refactor, rename, and we're going to call this guy Fragment Tower. Seems to be the more appropriate name. So refactoring is a software engineering term. So by doing this, it should fix it in all the other places. That's the reality. So when I changed it there, we should see inside of disk fragment that it's now doing Fragment Tower. That's significantly safer than just renaming it right here and leaving it to waste every place else we've ever used it. So use the refactoring tool. Similarly, we're going to rename our disk fragment. So we'll go to refactor, rename, and let's call this guy tower fragment. Do refactor, and we should see now in our core, these are now tower fragments. So a nice convenient way of, we named this wrong to begin with, so now we have those things kind of fixed up. Okay, so now what we'd like to do is we would like to have the ability to create disks of different sizes. Fair enough? All right, so what we're going to do is let's start off with, we can just do it as a layout. All right, so I'm going to go into our layout and we're going to create a new layout resource file. Root element is linear layout. Perfect. And we're going to call this guy disk. Well, let's just do disk. Good enough, because this is going to be one of the guys that's going to drop onto our tower. Okay, so our tower is already governed by a linear layout, a vertical one, and we have the button there at the very bottom of it as like a default thing. And now what we'd like to do is be able to drop disks onto that. And since we have the gravity set to bottom, anything we put in there should just drop down to the bottom. So the idea is that for our very first tower, we should be able to put in 3 disks. The hope would be we can adjust the size. So first one is a little bit bigger, then a little bit smaller, and a little bit smaller, and they should just drop right down to the bottom in the right place, almost acting like a stack. So we'll call this guy that. Here's our linear layout. And what we're going to do, let's see, so this is just a vertical linear layout. And I want to go ahead. This is going to match the parent for height. And width, we want to set the width. think what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to put another guy in here that has a set width. All right, so we're going to use this vertical linear layout as our container for our disk. And then inside of this, we're going to go and actually build the disk. So that disk, let's see, what might be the best representation? We set the background of a text box. Let's try that. That way we can maybe put a number in there showing us the if it's with 5, it'll be 5, then 3, then 1, something like that, kind of showing us what it is. Let's see. So layout width, I think we want to have that. Can we just give it a number? Let's do, actually we want to do layout weight. Yeah, that's going to be a lot better. So layout weight, we can say 0.85 should, oh, that's, we need to make this guy a, oh, hold on, I'm in the, I want width weight. Oh, can we not give it a percent? I guess we can just give it a 100, something like that. Oop. That's even dangerous. So I really want to do this relative to the parent because we have these inside of fragments. So we can have this guy, if he wraps his content, I suppose we can just put a number of underscores in there or something like that. You know, because the idea is if we have it wrap the content, if I change the text in here to 15 of those, it's wider than it would be otherwise. Maybe that's a decent way of faking it for right now. And then we want to change the color. All right, something like that for our current tower. All right, so we need to give this text view, let's call this guy disk label. All right, so let's start off by just dropping 3 of these guys into our leftmost tower, kind of setting up our initial game. So we'll do this in TOH core. So static void actually, we could probably do this inside of our stack activity because that like starts our game, right? So here's our stack activity. So as part of this, we need to go ahead and we can do this based on a button maybe. Well, this would be a good time to look at the activity lifecycle. So on create, we've already seen that our things aren't necessarily on the screen yet. So we can say on visible. So it looks like we should be able to do that. and that should populate it. So we should have an override. Oh. And actually, let's just see if we get unvisible behind. On Windows starting action. All right, so this is an app compat activity. Let's just see what. We need to add those things when we actually have something to add. So on create, we don't have the contents of our fragments yet, but it did look like there was an on fragment guy. On attach fragment. So that should be a tower fragment, which is a fragment. So we should be able to ask the question if fragment is equal to toh_core.tower1. So if tower1 is actually attached, fragment, tower fragment. Why not? If those guys are the same, seems like I should have been able to use the double equal sign there. Tower1 added. So let's see if we're able to accurately determine if tower1 was added. So this guy should actually get called 3 times. Let's prove that that's the case. So we'll say tower fragment added, and then we'll specifically call out when we see tower1 was added. Because we add 3 different fragments to this guy, so this should get called 3 times is the idea. That's part of how the life cycle of an activity works. So these are different points in time where we have access to stuff. So inside of our stack activity, inside of onCreate, we have access to all the buttons and things like that that live within the activity. But we don't have access to his fragment stuff because they haven't been completely born yet. So this should tell us that it's been attached. So let's see if that is the case. Should have been able to use a double equal sign here because fragment should be a memory address. toh_core.tower1 should be a memory address. stack. It doesn't look like we got anything there. Let's see, on window. Called when a fragment is attached to the activity. Seems like that's what we did, but that doesn't seem to be what happened. Let's see. So let's see. Are we attaching this? So we're beginning a transaction, then we're committing it. That must be different than attaching something. Because if we look at app compat, well, I already clicked on this guy. If I go back one, we're an app compat activity, which this guy is. So this guy's an app compat activity, which is also a fragment activity, which is also an activity, which is also all these other things. At the top of the stack here, we have this guy's an object. I'll make this a little bit bigger. All right, so as far as it being a fragment activity, that means he has access to drop fragments in. And it seems like he should be able to get those callbacks. Let's click on this. Called when the fragment is attached to the activity. Okay. Let's go back to, maybe we just need to go up one level. What can an activity do? Here's our activity lifecycle. On create, on start. So that means it's actually on the screen. We could probably cheat on that one. On start. So theory would be is that we actually have real stuff now. So we should be able to go ahead and add something to our tower 1. So we're going to add a disk. So we're going to go ahead and say this dot get layout inflator dot inflate. Okay, and we're going to give it the name of the resource. This is r.layout.disk. And then the view group is going to be this dot just this. What is a view group? Android view group. All right, so that's just a view. So that should be the content view of this guy. So this dot get content set content view. So we can find view by ID. Might just be context, but I don't have inside here the context. I might just be able to give it a null here, because we're not actually inflating it in that. We'll see if that's the case. So this should be a view v is equal to that. So that should give us that view. And then we want to add that to our tower. So we need to teach our towers how to add something to them. So this is the fragment. So we're going to say private view, call this guy tower view. And we're going to say this dot tower view is equal to that. Then we'll use that tower view here to find our view by ID. And then ultimately we'll return that tower view. So now we should be able to say void. Oh, this is actually going to be, this is going to be better. Yeah, this will be better. So add disk. Just keep it blank for right now. So now what we can do is we can so we have the view group for this guy. So we're going to go ahead and say private view group tower group. This dot tower group is equal to container. So this gets called on the onCreate view here. So this onCreate view for our fragment, he becomes aware of a bunch of stuff, and one of them is his view group. So he knows about his view group called a container. Well, we make it available to everything inside of this fragment by associating it with this global variable tower view or tower group. So then what we can do down here is when we want to add a disk, we can go ahead and say this dot didn't we have the inflator up here? Tower view, find a view by ID. Okay, so we do need to inflate something. So let's just say saying inflator here means that this dot inflator exists. Why does it think it doesn't exist there? All right. Oh, by the way, somebody was back there just randomly waving at the. All right. Let's see. So we need to have access to that inflator. So private layout inflator. The inflator this dot the inflator is equal to inflator. So that gives us access to it. So now we can say this dot the inflator dot inflate r dot layout dot disk inside of this dot tower group. All right, and this is just going to be a view disk is equal to that. And then we should be able to say this dot, we call it tower view dot that's a view to view, add view. Oh, that's not a thing. All right, so this gives us the entire tower. Fragment tower has a frame layout. Oh, here's our tower right here. That's this. ID is tower, so that's a linear layout. So we need to have access to that in order to add something. Private linear layout tower layout. And we should be able to say this dot tower layout is equal to this dot tower view dot find view by ID r dot ID dot tower, and that's going to be as a linear layout. So here's the entire view associated with this fragment. Here's just that interlinear layout that we need to add our views to. This is the guy that's already a vertical stack. So then down here, we are going to add tower layout dot add view. What view? Our disk. All right, so when we try to add a disk to our tower, it should go and inflate a brand new disk and then add that disk to our specific tower layout, which is our vertical linear layout associated with this fragment. The reality is we didn't actually need, as far as right now goes, our tower view up here. We could have kept that local in here because we're not using it, but now we have access to a bunch of stuff. But we did need the inflator because we didn't have access to that down here. All right, so let's go back to our stack activity. So on start, we'll go ahead and say toh core.tower1.add disk. And let's see if this guy, the hope is on start gets called after everything's already been created, well after on create, and we hopefully will be able to drop a disk into just our first tower. Okay, well, not horrible, and we dropped 2 disks in there.
I think it's just one disk.
Just one monster disk, and it wrapped because
Yeah.
The text doesn't go all the way across the second one on.
right. So it just wrapped because we probably have wrap content set up. Where's that? That's this guy. With his wrap content. We could probably just have it match parent. And this guy matches his parent. So those guys should get squeezed down. So I guess for right now, we can leave that blank. There's no text in there, and let's just see what that looks like. This should give us a disk that is the width of that fragment, I would think. We do need to be able to adjust the width of those disks. Okay, that seems, well, somewhat reasonable enough. I would have expected this guy to go on top. We added him. So we come back into our fragment. This is this guy, that's our tower. That's a vertical one. Adding a view to it dropped it below. So it seems like adding things is always, why is the weight of that guy higher? Tower fragment. This dot tower layout dot add. Oh, here we can do add view index. Oh, we can also add the child with a width and height, it looks like. So we can add this disk. Let's try adding it at index 0, just for the sake of argument, and see if that gives us the behavior. Otherwise, we'll try adding at 1 to see whether it's by default putting it before or after. Because right now we know there's only one thing in there, that's our button. Row. Just replace it. Looks like we replaced it. So we add it to 1. We do have the gravity in there set at 0, or set at bottom. So why isn't everything getting sucked to the bottom? Okay, so let's try -1. See if that forces it to go before it. Or is it just going to croak? No, doesn't like that either. We could do this. This dot tower layout dot remove view. This dot the button. Then we can add whichever one we add second. This dot tower layout dot add view. This dot the button, so we'll add it back. My guess is this is probably not the cleanest way of doing it, but might give us the look we're going for. So we pulled the button out. Did we lose it again? This has to be because of the layout for our disk here. Really, we want just that disk label. That's the guy we want to get out of there. So this disk label is called that. So what I can do is in here, just bounce it all over the place. In our tower fragment, I'm adding the entire disk, which is, I should be able to say, is it text or edit text? Oh, text view. Text view disk label is equal to disk dot find view by ID r dot ID dot disk label. This is going to be a text view. So we'll grab specifically the disk label. And then I guess before we do anything else, let's not remove stuff. Let's just try adding disk label. So I have a feeling that governing layout that our disk label is in was overtaking the parent guy. Ruh-roh. So I didn't like just adding a disk label to that. It was fine adding the entire view. Right now I just want to set, well, that's not going to be right either. We specifically have it unset. No, it doesn't let us do that. Let's match parent.
Is it that we have the one layout that has the button and then the place where the disk layout goes above that? Or are the buttons and the disks in the same layout?
Buttons and the disk should be in the same layout. I think I just fixed one problem. The layout height was fill parent, but we wanted to just wrap content. That's why it was elevating about the same height. Well, should be exactly the same height as how the boxes we had for our fragments to plop into. So this guy should now give us the right height without dropping the label. We should be able to drop the entire layout in. It didn't like us just adding the layout, or just adding the label rather. So we don't need the disk label. Well, we might need it to set some boundaries on that. But let's go back and just put in the disk. That should be the entire layout there. At the very least, this guy shouldn't elevate up on the screen. It should be down on the bottom now. The button right above it. Okay, so that's sort of what we want. So now we should be able to remove the button here, add in the disk, then add the button back. Let's see what that looks like. Ah, nailed it. All right, so then the idea here is that we should be able to, from our stack activity, add a couple of disks. No spaces in there, but Those are 3 discs. So what I'll do is I'll finish making a couple changes that make these discs different sizes. So I'll just take advantage of, we have access to our labels, so we should be able to set the width of our label here. Disk label dot set width equal to, let's just try it at 50 here and make sure that they're different sizes. And then I'll have it just pass in a number here before I commit this. So for your homework assignment, what we want to do is we want to create the mechanic of moving disks from one tower to another tower. You don't have to play the game. You don't have to make sure it's a legal move. Just disk moves from this tower to this tower to this tower. Remember, we have our towers global, so we should be able to remove a disk, plop it into our destination. We already have those buttons letting us know the push and pop thing. So just get disks moving around mechanically. Make sense? And I'll push this to the thing after I have the thing setting up correctly. I think it's pretty much done. Alright, so that should be disk. Here's this guy. And we're going to have it wrap content.
So I want to get an internship for this summer.
Okay.
And who do I talk to about that?
Well, it depends. What kind of internship are you looking for?